All right. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Charles Moscowitz. Welcome to the program, the live stream, and the archive. Check out all my archives, please, at charlesmoskowitz.com. And Barry Secrest is my guest. Barry, you are the author of The Perfect Liberal Storm, When
Right.
Executive, Legislative, and Media Enjoin. Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Charles.
So your book pretty much focuses on the major social and political changes that took place in the early days of the Obama administration, in which we had a sense of dislocation and losing control in a sense over our rights and our sovereign abilities as citizens, I think. And I guess that, a lot's happened since then. We've had a reassertion of sovereignty under the Trump administration.
Absolutely.
Where do you think we are now?
I saw things taking shape way back when I started writing that book in 2009. And at the time, there were very few other websites. And really, one of the things I was meaning to do, and we did it, was to run a little interference for Rush Limbaugh, because he was one of the few out there really,
Right, man.
kicking it up. And that's essentially there was no one else at the time, and everybody was scared. And now it's a little bit different because Biden is like the spineless, weak president being controlled obviously by somebody else. And we don't even know if he has actors up there or doubles or what. So it just gets more and more mysterious as we watch things take shape. So back in that day, we were one of the first to come out, and it was funny because I would keep a very close eye on our internet, the ratings, etc. And I started seeing this website probably after about a year just come flying by, Conservative Refocus, and it turned out to be the Blaze. Okay, so I was like, oh, that's what's his name,
Yeah,
Glenn.
Glenn
Beck, and we got to know Glenn. We knew we got in touch with a lot of Michael Reagan, Wallace's grandson. It was amazing. John Voight, some of the people who responded to what we were writing. But the main thing is we wanted to put out an alternative message, and it really resounded. And I use a lot of humor in my writing style. So we climbed all the way to the top 1% of our websites. Mm-hmm. As a result, we keep having to change servers, because this one we had an actual an internet company get in touch with us, our internet company, and say, man, you're going to have to go your own dedicated server because you're taking down huge blocks of other websites. So it was fascinating, and it felt like a fight all along, because then I started having all these people come after me, and that was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did, and it was I was not intimidated, but I knew I was in for a fight, and boy, I had one. And the longer that I wrote, and the more people and the more websites that came out with us, the less and less that power factor came into play. And some of the things that Obama did were just ludicrous, and this guy Biden, he doesn't even try to cover it up, quite frankly. It is just amazing to me what some people have put up with, but it seems less and less, because I don't think they have control of the narrative any longer. I saw the recent poll about everybody thinking that Congress, they're rated lower than used car salesmen at this point. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the media is even lower. So whatever we're doing is effective. So the whole impetus is to try to get people to speak out. They're on social media. Oh, I don't want to mess up my family. Don't worry. We're past that. We're way past that. So, and that's kind of the message I want to put out. Don't worry. If you have a family member that doesn't like what you're saying, oh, well, they need to hear the truth. So,
yeah, but it's very difficult in this atmosphere. And I think that after Donald Trump won, and he wasn't supposed to win, as we know, the establishment went into a complete shock, and they were involved in spying of his administration and the eavesdropping and then trying to get him impeached.
Yep.
And then I think they didn't want to, in a sense, have any risk going forward, which is why, and I have to be careful what I talk about here, because this
exactly. Yeah.
You have to use euphemisms. Let's just say that in the last election, there was a combination of very, very large money sources that were willing to you kind of spread money around the street, so to speak, to get things to happen in a certain way. Let's leave it at that. And that combined with, the mockingbird media, the sycophants in the press, who either irrationally despise Trump, not knowing why, just with the daily drumbeat of lies, or that they were conscious and witting participants in trying to take Trump down.
Indeed.
That all of these things combined with, along with some corrupt states and some corrupt secretaries of states and district attorneys who were put in place by the money from a person that shall remain nameless, among others, it kind of combined to cause a certain result. Let's just put it that way. We have to be euphemistic here. And I only bring this up, and I think that most people watching the show know exactly what I'm talking about, to point out that this same infrastructure that made these things happen, let's just put it that way, last November and on January 6th, the same infrastructure is still there, and they still hold that power. They can still censor. They can still decide who is and which opinions are heard and not heard. And I wonder what we can do going forward.
Well, I mean, keep supporting certain sites that give you the alternative and the true narrative, because we already know that they're fake news, and they indeed are. I mean, everything that they do, CNN is crushed, and they're continuing to go down. And it's amazing that they actually pay airports to carry their broadcast. I think that's the funniest thing ever. I really do.
No, really.
So, but don't be afraid to speak out. That is where I see a major problem, where so many people are used to being, you have to be conservative, be very, very careful. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to say things that may be considered to be turbulent or, crazy. I mean, they're going to call you crazy if you come out and utter maybe even a semblance of the truth. And
well, Barry, to just maybe counter that a little bit, it's easy for you and I, a couple of old guys who have nothing really to lose, and we write books and we do broadcasts, and I don't care what people think. I mean, I'm going to speak truths.
Yeah.
But yet you get some young person in college, whose parents are spending $60,000 a year, and they have to deal with these, this kind of establishment, or you get people who are trying to enter into the job market and trying to get, they want to become a consultant or something, or they want to get, they want to have a career. They, in this particular atmosphere, frankly, fascistic atmosphere, I will say that.
It's true.
What do they do? I mean, how do they proceed?
Well, you're going to have to go to what I do is, like, if Facebook suspends me, which they recently suspended me, they have many times. They've deleted my account. Twitter has suspended me. But I bring them a lot of traffic, I do. And so I went on LinkedIn while I was suspended, and I, solidified and started garnering my followership there, or people who would listen. And, it's growing massively because I'm willing just to say the truth, put it out there. And, the thing is, I try to stay, on the edge of the Overton window, which is that imaginative window, but it's true, of basically where people can accept what you're saying. And that thing is opening up pretty darn wide now, because, and I keep telling my son, who works here in my office with me, I keep telling him, man, I'm so sorry that you're having to go through this, because we've never seen anything like it. And I don't want you to think this is normal, or, oh, we've been through this. No, we haven't been through this. I spent a decade probably writing the equivalent of 4 War and Peace novels, trying to get people to come along, and it worked. I mean, as far as getting Trump elected, I helped. I wouldn't by any means the major impetus, but I just helped. And then you look at other facets of this. Faith comes into play, and so many other things. But you've got to believe in and have faith in the will of the American people and God Himself, because this is a nation. This is God's nation. I believe that.
I believe it'll all work out for the good, because God is good. But yet at the same time, we may have to go through some rather dark patches on the way to that good. And that's what worries me. Now, recently, I mean, as during the pandemic, and again, I want to be very careful here because this is a forbidden subject, so we need to talk in euphemisms. I had people on my program last March at the very beginning of the pandemic, including Lord Monckton from England and several others, who talked about the origins, let's just say, of the virus, and they did so in a way that was not the accepted establishment way of discussing it. And I got one strike, but I also had several videos just disappear. They weren't even stricken; they just were like gone.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, and also James Perloff, who was an author of a book about this, he was taken out of. He was not only disappeared from my show and all the other shows, but his book was purged out of by Amazon. And he basically was talking about exactly what is now finally allowed a year later, which is that, the origins of the virus. And also, he was talking about another thing, which were various reasonable FDA approved modalities for treating the virus if you get it, or for preventing the virus, including this drug that begins with H that we still can't mention.
Correct.
And I got a strike for that, for mentioning that. In fact, I have a guest on right now after I talk with you who we're talking about some of the truths of these topics. I won't run that on YouTube. What I've done is I've set up my own website, charlesmoscowitz.com, and I have probably about 30 different venues that carried my show. So in case one of them is taken down, you can go to the other ones.
Right.
But I guess what I'm saying is that those subjects that we're talking about, that we can't even talk about because I am live on YouTube right now, you and I know about this. People in the know about it, including at the highest levels, and people who are frankly more conservative and are willing to, they're not part of the normies. But the vast majority of people don't. They don't know what we're talking about. They have no idea. They woke up one day and all of a sudden found out about the origins of the virus. We knew about this for a year.
I know.
What do you do?
You just got to keep saying it, and not be afraid of say what you believe is the truth, and make sure you research it seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Research heavily, but come out with it and pronounce it and make it clear. I mean, people need to speak up. That is one of the things, and they are, but there needs to be a lot more of that. And hopefully there will be. I think they're losing a lot of their inhibitions when it comes to speaking out on politics and things. And if you start doing it, it's amazing how other people will follow suit who are close to you, and maybe not so close, but they will follow suit because they see it's happening to you and you're still around. So, hey, it must be okay. Why not? And this is what I'm seeing, but it's slowly happening. And, I think we've won this thing, and a lot of other people do too. So, there's the other drug, the big I drug. But I mean, what I've always used is hefty dosages of zinc and vitamin D3 and multiple other things that I put in a little, morning drink every day. And it's worked for me. I don't know that it would work for anybody else, but it does work.
Yeah. So, well, yeah. I mean, I don't generally do it. I don't recommend anything one way or the other, but I do the same. I mean, I take zinc and the vitamin D3
and I got suspended, by the way, for that, for saying zinc and D3, saying, hey, people, this is really what you need to be taking.
And now it turns out that Fauci was taking it from day one.
He was faking it, absolutely. Everything.
But apparently decided for what conveniently not to mention this to the public. You think that as someone who's the one go-to person, and has been all the way going way back to the AIDS epidemic, by the way, that he might mention this, and the fact that he didn't, and the fact that he publicly denounced the H drug, as we have mentioned the name of, and now it's come out, according to the American Journal of Medicine, that it's an effective drug. But he publicly denounced that when he knew better. The question has to be asked, why? Why would they do this? Why would they denounce reasonable, normal, inexpensive treatments for the virus, and while people are dying, while people are getting sick?
I think there's a lot of different answers that will vector into that, but one of them is they wanted to control the narrative, and they can't. It's like wanting to be able to control the truth. You can't, unless you're uttering the truth. If you try to utter anything else, eventually you'll be found out. And that's one of the things about what we might call the great reawakening, which is happening. But, and I'm learning new things every day. And some people will sit down in front of me and we'll be doing business, and all of a sudden it'll segue into something from Genesis 6 or some kind of crazy thing that turns out to be true that I had wind of a year ago. But what's happening? They're losing and have lost control of the narrative. They're going to keep Fauci in, obviously. I mean, Biden came out with something saying, "Oh no, we're going to keep him in," but they have to, because Fauci goes down, they all start dropping like dominoes. I believe that.
Oh yeah, he's still up there. He's still Lester Holt still has him on. I mean, he's still,
Yeah.
while this whole scandal is going on about, well, let me again be euphemistic here. His connection to monies that went to certain institutions that were in communist countries that are enemies of the United States,
Yes.
institutions that might have engaged in biological enhancements.
Yeah. Does that start with a C, by the way? But that country?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah. And yet, this is like the Rosenbergs giving nuclear bomb secrets to Stalin.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's actually worse, because in this case, you had the deaths of millions of people all over the world. I don't want to go too far. I might start to spill the beans. All right. I think, we have to be so careful. I think most people know what I'm talking about.
I'm not very careful. I'll just tell you.
I know, but I want to save my YouTube station, at least for now.
Absolutely. I know.
After the show, I may lose it. So be it. But I still want to try to do like what Rush Limbaugh did, which was he would just go to the edge of the envelope, but he didn't quite cross over.
That's absolutely right. You're dead on.
And by doing that, he actually influenced more people, because he stayed in and he stayed on.
That's exactly right.
He did have to play footsie with the establishment, but at the same time, he probably brought more people to patriotism and conservatism than, let's say, the John Birch Society, which did not play footsie, but they were relegated to a fringe.
Yeah.
Now we have a lot of the information we're talking about regarding both the pandemic and regarding the election, or the events of the first November. It's Tuesday in November of last year. It's coming out now that the new administration is installed, because the truth comes out. You can't keep it down forever, as you say. Great awakening, whatever you want to call it. It's coming out, and they're trying to, I think, manage it as it comes out. But now that he's gone, it's kind of hard to hold, keep the gigantic lid on this volcano.
Mm-hmm. And they'll continue to try, but it's like they're hanging on a cliff and they're slipping. Okay, and one hand's getting ready to come loose, and before long they're just going to plunge, and that's coming really quickly. And according to all my sources,
hallelujah,
it's coming fast, man. It's
coming a lot faster than I thought it would. I thought it would take years, and now there are developments right now. We can't talk about them, but I will mention, by the way, I think I can say this, hopefully, but there are a couple of good sources, including yours, Barry, but also the Gateway Pundit is doing a great job. And Steve Bannon is doing a great job, and he's still on Apple. I mean, and his show is huge, and I recommend that my listeners here check that out every day. Both of those venues.
Absolutely, and there's so many more that we can't even begin to mention, but they're all doing their part.
That's right.
The Patriots are coming together, and it's going to be huge, and it's probably going to be in the autumn. I mean, that's my way of thinking. It's probably going to be in the autumn. And I looked at some of Kim Clemente's prophecies, which he was right on everything. I mean, he came out in 2004 and predicted Trump, or 2005, but he predicted Trump in 2012. And sure enough, I don't think he gave an exact time, but he said he's coming, and he described it to a T. And lo and behold, he also said there's going to be a time where we're going to have two presidents, and that's what we have right now.
I think that's right. And I don't know if it's problematic to say that, but that's that is the truth.
It's just my opinion. We still have the First Amendment. So even though the censors who are getting ready to get theirs, by the way, even though they don't think we do, and I love their explanations as to why they've taken down Marjorie Taylor Greene and some of these other people that they've, including Trump, that they've taken down. Oh, we're going to suspend Trump for 2 years. And I'm going, okay.
Oh my God. And the mainstream media is proud of this.
Yes, they think it's amazing.
Like, it's like what they do, really a Stalinist thing. And by the way, I just want to be on the record. Biden was sworn in, and
Yes.
he is the president of the United States. Okay.
Yes.
That's a reality.
Administratively or bureaucratically, I would have.
However it happened, that's the question. It happened, and he's president, and Kamala Harris is vice president.
Yeah, but we still haven't seen Air Force One, have we? I don't know. I don't think we have, actually. I don't think Air Force One. I think they call it something else. I believe it's, I don't know, President Biden's, plane.
Let's just say there are some rather strange goings on around this, but nevertheless, I do accept the fact that he was sworn in. All right.
Yeah.
He is the president. That's, it's just as a matter of consistency. I'm not trying to overthrow the government.
No.
This is this is what we have. Now, you talk about the Great Awakening. There's been a lot said about this QAnon, which I don't know a lot about, and I don't entirely trust it because we don't know who's behind it. It's like anonymous. The other one, which there's a mask, and it's kind of an internet phenomenon. And I'm not here to endorse anything particular that they say, other than wonder about one principle that they talk about, which I think is something that ought to be looked into. I don't say it's absolutely proven, but that is that there is an international pedophile ring at the very highest levels of government, of power, of business, of even religion, of our cultural institutions, and that they are satanic. Maybe not, I don't say they're necessarily doing satanic rituals.
Oh, you're insane. I can't believe you said that. I mean, but it's true. It's absolutely true.
I believe it's true. I think that it ought to be instead, in a sense, when you look at the people who are ridiculing this, that tells me that it is true.
Yeah, just look at the owner of Cosmic Pizza, for heaven's sake. Oh my God. I mean,
let's be careful about that. That's forbidden.
That's true. Okay.
All right. We know what you're talking about and what the word pizza means in the colloquial for and its connection to pedophile. I'm nervous going too far into that. Everybody knows what you're talking about.
I know.
And also I think we can mention the one thing that was clearly exposed, which was Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile island. That's not even something. That's something there's been documentaries. That's accepted. They can't hide that. Yeah. But I think that, all I'm saying with regard to all of these things is, instead of sitting here and ridiculing, we ought to have a complete and thorough and, if I may, forensic investigation of this. And the fact,
or we could call it an audit. Call it an audit.
Maybe call it an audit. Yeah. Speaking of which, I mean, this is something that's a movement again, let's be euphemistic here. There is something being done right now in a Western state that is the gold standard for examining elections. It is the best that's ever been done in history.
It's amazing.
It should be done in all 50 states. It should be done in every election as a matter of routine.
I agree.
To make sure that our ballots are preserved. We have a one man, one vote, and that ballots are not suppressed. And the fact that the establishment refers to voter suppression, and you have states and legislators who are trying to protect that principle. The voter suppression happens when there's a fake ballot cast. That suppresses a real ballot.
Absolutely.
But you go to vote, and then there's another vote cast that's not a real person, or that's somebody who died, or somebody who moved out of state, or somehow electronically voted. Your vote has been suppressed. That's voter suppression. States are trying to protect the voter, the electorate, from voter suppression with these laws, and that you can have the establishment try to turn this on its head and say that the opposite is the case. I mean, that's the very definition of Satanism.
Absolutely.
You turn the truth on its head and make it a lie, and that which is lie becomes the truth.
I think we're going to be seeing them walking around backwards, doing everything in reverse here before long. It's just a matter of time. Okay.
Yeah, but I guess the communist ideal is 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
It's also lyrics of the Bruce Springsteen song. So, so anyhow, but you are noting that in spite of these tools that the establishment is using to create this false narrative, that they're on the ropes. I mean, only one of two scenarios could be true. Either they have won, they have proven that they can control, the oligarchs can control the world, and that they're consolidating their power, or this is the last gasp of a corrupt, rotten, internationalist, illuminated oligarchy,
Well,
and that they're heading into the ash bins of history with where they belong.
the key with your words is illuminated, I believe. And
Let's not go too far into that.
right, but you can take that to any level that you desire. But the fact is, the worst thing that could have possibly ever happened has happened. People have been exposed to the truth, and it's a god awful truth. It's horrible, but people have been exposed to it, and now all the little tendrils are going out. Okay, is this really real? And some people don't believe it, and that's fine. But what if it is true? I mean, that's always the consideration, and always begin there and then proceed from there. And a lot of people are, it's just insane what we're learning. It's absolutely, and not only that, then you have the investigations and the arrests from the last 4 years because of the president that was in office at the time. So, and it's been just extraordinary. And then you have Europe speaking to voter ID. Well, apparently all of the European nations use voter ID, and that's like a non-brainer. Oh, yeah. But for some reason, all the Dems here don't like it. Well, why not? It's just telling the truth, isn't it? I mean,
it's first of all, most nations in the world do it, and many states do it, and absolutely. There's only a handful of states actually that use, first of all, the electronic mechanisms for voting, which we can't talk about. But as far as voter ID, I mean, this group called the Brennan Center, which is a phony turf group that was established by this multi-billionaire who we shall not mention, with funding from that person. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who invented this idea back maybe 5 or 6 years ago that somehow supporting voter ID means you've got something against Black people,
right?
That it's racist. And it's based on a premise that is profoundly racist. I mean, the idea that Black people can't get ID. I mean, I work with an insult. It's an insult. I go to a college where I'm mostly Black people. I know a lot of Black people, and believe me, they have just as much ability to get an ID as I do. Mm-hmm. This is the idea that somehow they can't do that. This is the kind of racism it's kind of the old British colonial style racism, the Rudyard Kipling, white man's burden racism, that Black people are like children. And that this kind of vicious racism is being exploited by them to try to basically rip off voters and hurt Black people, because Black people's votes are being just as suppressed as everyone else when you have a system that doesn't properly and examine the integrity of the vote. And by the way, my state-owned state of Massachusetts, which is known to be very liberal generally, is actually pretty conservative when it comes to this. You cannot get an absentee ballot in this state unless you're registered with the county. Mm-hmm. And when you apply for it, they double check and they cross check that registration and your signature on file before you get issued a ballot by mail. And then you have to put it in a second envelope, and there's a process. They didn't do what they did in the last election in Massachusetts, which was paper the House of ballots and send them out unsolicited. So Massachusetts, for all of our liberalism, we, they do it right here, or if they do it better. There could be improvement.
Oh, so far, but they've probably learned their lesson, but it's going to be too late. I believe all of the states are now updating all their voting, and you've got like North Carolina just came out and stated we're going to do a forensic audit. So
I mentioned that word.
Yes. So it's happening, and
it is.
The voter ID is coming in. It's coming in, and the Supreme Court is backing us on illegal aliens. They just had the decision yesterday.
That's a unanimous decision with the majority opinion written by Elena Kagan.
That blew me away. Yeah.
It shows that even maybe they're getting a little bit of a patriotic nerve or something. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know if it's that. I think maybe fear might be mixing into this just a little bit because their effectiveness as a court has been brought into question more in the recent 12 months than any other time, I believe, in the last probably 100 years.
Or maybe they want to try to see if they can salvage a few shreds of integrity after this fiasco of
Maybe.
the last few months, which we can't mention.
But
Uh,
my friend John on LinkedIn pointed out, Barry, do you think they're afraid of what is coming? And I thought, I hadn't thought about that, John, but yeah, I think you might be right about that. And he was right. I mean, I think it is. They're fearful. And John Roberts was always very, with the Chief Justice was always very, uh, just very antagonistic towards making sure that his court was well accepted by the masses. I mean, he's always
right. It seems to be
he's always
the public opinion as
yeah, public
opposed to
opinion.
looking at the law.
Yeah, he's really concerned with the optics, and
Exactly.
he's done some crazy stuff, and they still haven't heard any of not the Supreme Court has not heard any of the cases, although in I think it's 71 or 72% of all the cases brought about the election, the former president has won.
And by the way, the 1868 Throckmorton case says that if fraud is proven in a legal proceeding, then fraud vitiates, and it uses the word vitiates, any previous consideration, which means that if fraud is proven, then whatever happened before the fraud is nullified. It's
true.
wiped off the.
And then the former president actually went to the Supreme Court and asked them a question, in essence being, okay, if there was foreign interference, is this election still valid? And he received his answer, no, sir, it is not. So there you have it. And they already have proven that some of these ballots that have impossible types of creases in them.
All right, Barry, we're getting too subversive here.
Okay.
I think that, again, if people want to learn about this, they're going to have to go to your sites, and they're going to have to go to my site, charlesmoscowitz.com, and listen to programs that are done about this. But we can't talk about this because it's verboten on YouTube. Suffice to say that there is a national movement that is growing that they can't stop. I think there's going to be an earthquake.
Yep.
14 or 12 or 13 months from now during the midterms, when we're going to see the Republicans, and good Republicans too, take over the House in a big way, possibly 50 seats, in a way that's going to affect generations to come. Same thing with the Senate, and same thing on the state level. And I think that things are moving in that direction. So they can't stop that. They've had these ridiculous attempts to try to do public relations. I mean, having Kamala Harris go to Guatemala City, where she was booed, and the president of Guatemala, who won his election with 60% and who's pro-Trump, and who brought up the fact that Biden shut down the processing of reasonable refugee status visas. He just shut down that office and then opened the border, that this was not a good policy for them. And, she's busy there handing out cookies with her face on it. Did you know about that?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the saying was, let them, like Marie Antoinette, let them eat cookies. I mean, really bizarre behavior with and it just, even Lester Holt came out and finally asked a good question, like, when are you going down to the border? Ha, ha. What would you ask me when I'm going to Europe?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it reminded people of why she's so disliked, and so by both sides, and so unpopular. So I think that they're trying to stage manage, and when they step out and try, who knows what they're going to pull off right now at the G7 summit. I mean, Putin is going to go like this. It's sort of our country is a laughingstock of the world right now. Everyone knows what happened, frankly, without mentioning what happened, because in America, we can't talk about it. And it's creating instability around the world. There's been a war in the Middle East. There's China is waving a saber at Taiwan. There's talk that Taiwan might be invaded over the summer. France is on the verge of a civil war. I mean, this is instability everywhere because you need leadership and you need legitimacy in order to.
The globalists are horrible leaders, every one of them. And really, that's the ones in control of the United States. It's the globalists. And some people, what is a globalist? They don't even know what that is. And I try to preach to people on LinkedIn. I'll tell them in a very nice way, okay, this is what a globalist is. This is what they believe in. And they're big one world governmenters,
Yeah.
They believe in one world government, and that is not the way.
They want to turn the United States into a province of the world.
Absolutely. And the seven kingdoms. And I think we're number one. And I believe Europe's supposed to be number 2 or 3 as far as the sectorates boil out from the Club of Rome way back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And that's one of the, when they tried to, in essence, just create a corridor up through Texas and into central North America to eliminate the border. In essence, that took place. Now I wrote about it.
Yeah, the superhighway, right?
Yeah, Lou Dobbs. Yeah, absolutely. And the people of Texas beat that back and killed it. Thank God for Texas.
Oh, I know.
So,
by the way, Texas just had a special election where a Hispanic Republican, pro-Trump Republican, won in a district that Hillary Clinton carried by 20 points. So, I mean, that's the beginning of the earthquake.
Almost 75% of the Hispanics there voted.
That's right.
For the Republican guy. And that's what really, Rubio came out about it, but this is what's scaring them. And they've already lost this thing. I'm telling you.
And I think they're picking up among black votes too. I mean, Republicans.
Yeah, we are.
And I think the country's rejecting this Marxist race theory stuff and, all of it.
Stupidity. Yes.
Anyway, Barry, but where can people listen to and see your program and get your excellent book?
Well, I mean, at times I am on Blog Talk Radio. I have been on a sabbatical. Okay, I will say it. I took a break because, like I said, I'd written 4 war and peace novels over the last decade. Missed a lot of my child's upcomings, but I thought it was necessary.
Good.
And but they can go to LinkedIn. I'm there. They can go on Facebook. I'm there. And I'll probably put a promo for this show up on the website, conservativerefocus.com. And they're still getting 5,000 hits a day, even though I'm not posting it.
And also your book, A Perfect Liberal Storm,
absolutely,
it's available at Amazon Books.
That was at the nexus of what we're seeing happening all around us right now, and I saw what was coming.
Oh, yeah, very prescient thinking there, and very prophetic. So check that out. All right, Barry. Listen, I want to thank you for joining me. Great pleasure.
It was great.
We should do it again soon. Thank you.
Nice to meet you here on the Zoom show. Okay.
You bet. Same here.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Have a great one.
You too, sir.